Val Anaya and Thomas Jackson of Jackson Ranch Steakhouse. Take it away, Val.
Thank you. Once again, we're here with Getting Vocal with Val, and I want to introduce our host from Jackson Ranch Steakhouse, the owner and head chef, I believe, Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Good to have you guys here today.
And I'd like you to talk a little bit about your reopening plans for the restaurant, getting started.
So we're working on that. We stayed open through the whole time doing the carry out and the curbside orders. So we've been open the whole time. We're still open now doing carry out and curbside on an abbreviated schedule. We're doing 12 to 7, Monday through Saturday. And then as soon as we hear from the governor when we're allowed to reopen the dining room, we'll go back to our regular hours. And it's been interesting because we're not sure when she's going to let us open or what exactly all the regulations are, but we're working with U.S. Foods on coming up with a reopening plan to make changes and stuff. So hand sanitizer stations, keeping the 6-foot distance, so we'll probably have like where every other booth and every other table will be occupied to spread it out. And we have a big place here, so our capacity is like 250 people. So even if they go down 25%, we can still hold quite a few people.
Yep,
that distancing.
That sounds pretty good, and I'll tell you what, right now the smell coming from that kitchen is pretty awesome. So speaking of the plans to reopen, I'll let you get back to work, and I'll introduce our guest for today, Mayor and Dr. Ravi Bhaskar. So
thank you.
We're going to let you gentlemen switch seats.
Yeah, thank you.
And just off camera, we have Mayor Bhaskar's right-hand man, our city administrator, Donald Monette, so he'll keep us straight with everything. So this is our mayor, Dr. Ravi Bhaskar, and I think I've known Mayor Bhaskar since I was 6 years old, so about 30 years. Welcome, Mayor.
Val, congratulations on your program. Congratulations for having it at Jackson Ranch, and really, I've seen you over at Socorro Springs and other restaurants, and that's just a terrific idea. Say you're Jay Leno, but I think if you let your hair grow a little bit longer, I think you'll make it. It's just a great program that you guys are putting together at the Rio Grande. What do you call yourselves? MGR?
Rio Grande Valley Radio.
Rio Grande
Valley Radio.
Valley Radio. Well, congratulations. It's just terrific.
Well, with everything going on, Mayor, and the history we have together, I think I've met all of your kids, and I'd like to ask a little bit how they're doing with the pandemic going on. Has everybody been safe and doing good?
I'll give you a rundown from Arkansas to Albuquerque to California. So Helga, the youngest, is in Arkansas. They've got different rules, although they're doing fine. They're doing fine out there. They're not as strict rules as here. So she's doing well with her 3 kids. I've got 3 kids in Albuquerque. Christina's actually working at the University of New Mexico Emergency Room, a hospital. Busy. She's a social worker. She has to deal with the people that pass away from with COVID, so she has to talk to the families. She's also dealing with a lot of trauma still coming into the, UNM hospitals. She has 2 kids. One just graduated on virtual from Bosque School. We watched that. The other one's a 15-year-old, and that's a nightmare. 15-year-old girl.
Yep.
I'm telling you, it's tough. Helen is a teacher, and she was doing distance teaching at trying to think of the name of the school. I don't know if it was Herbert Hoover or which school she was. She has 2 kids that went to Evangel Christian, and again, that was distance learning for them. And Kadar's got 3 kids. He's a lawyer, and he's working part-time. The courts are closed, and he does civil law, which is if you have a traffic accident, don't call Saul, call Kadar. That's my little ad for him.
There's a plug for the lawyer.
Yeah, so he's got 3 kids, and then Jeff is out in California, which is really different. He is sequestered in place. They're not going out. He has a small son. They're not going out. and they actually live in Malibu, and it's they just stay in their little community, and that's it.
I was thinking about him watching all the Zoom productions going on, and I was waiting for something to come out from him with all the production he does.
Yeah. Well,
So-
his friend Mark Ronson put on a big event with a bunch of top flight studio people, and he actually, Jeff was on that one. I think they had a couple of million views. And he's just put out a record with Dua Lipa that is called Future Nostalgia. That's her new album. She's kind of the new disco craze right now, young lady.
Yep.
She's very good. But everybody's doing well. I'm the only one who's stressed out, I think.
You mentioned one of your granddaughters, the one that just graduated, I believe.
Let me see. No, not yet. Not yet. I have a great granddaughter who just had a baby, but my 15-year-old didn't graduate. She's still, she'll be a junior at Bosque.
So which is the one that stood in our wedding as the flower girl? She must be about
She's,
20 now.
I've got dementia. That's Antoinette. She's our granddaughter. She's 21 and a half now,
Yeah. So
and she's working at a dental office.
as I was saying, the history between especially the mayor and my dad goes back
Oh, hey,
a couple generations.
listen, Anayas and Tiny, let me tell you, you guys are great. But Tiny,
Oh,
I just can't.
I can't even. I don't even try to pretend
You know,
to.
and the old time, you
meet
you
those
always say everything will be
expectations.
all right. You know, Tiny's his statement was always, "It'll be all right."
Yep. So
But you guys, the Anayas, are a force to be reckoned with throughout history here.
and
No question about it.
it's been 16 years. 2 weeks ago that he
Unbelievable.
passed
Every
away.
time I go around that corner, Val, where they're doing all that work now,
Yeah. Yep.
I just know exactly what the spot. I just can't believe it.
Yep. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the issues concerning our community. Of course, first of all, we'd like to talk a bit about COVID, and I want to commend you as mayor for all the efforts you've done. The mask wearing, I think we've only seen 2 cases
Cases.
in the city of a population around 10,000, and I think that's pretty awesome. I think this community has really gotten on board, especially because on social media, you don't just send out the recommendations, you fill it with data. And I think people like to see that.
I've never been on social media as much, other than when the election comes around.
This is an example, I think. Last week we had 500 viewers, and we're hoping to
Yes.
top that today. So tell me a little bit about your communication with the business owners and the city about what's going on in the next couple of
Well,
weeks.
you know, it's been what since March, I guess, when we've gotten into the real tough part. I always tell people there's 4 cities that are close to Navajo reservations, and that's Farmington, Gallup, Grants, and Socorro. And you can just look at the numbers, and I think things are quieting down. Alamo is quieting down. We're at 49. We've been at 49 now for this county for a while. The city has been at 2, although they jumped us up to 3. I don't know how they did that, and they brought us back down to 2. We've been like that for a month and a half.
Yep.
And I have to hand it to the public about these masks. And again, you know, the mask, you know, I got a couple of guys who always on social media have poke holes, so to speak, through the mask theory. But the mask theory is not just droplet and the 6 foot and 8 foot and talk like the way my big mouth is. You know, you're talking, mine go about 10 feet. You're pushing that stuff out. But it's a trigger for people to remember we've got an epidemic going on.
Yes.
You know, wear the mask, that way you don't have somebody on your shoulder in line, because they should know, hey, you got the mask, there's something going on, distance.
Yep.
You know, it kind of keeps you remembering that stuff. So we started the masks on April 13th.
Yep.
And now, you know, now everybody's got to have a mask. Well, they should have had that mask at the reservation in all the towns very early on, because now the new information coming out is that droplet on surfaces is not as contamination as we think it was. that, sure, you still should clean.
Yeah.
But it's this droplets that are doing the problem. The other thing is we're seeing, I think per capita, New Mexico has a higher rate of younger COVID people to children
Yeah.
than anybody in the state. Even New York, I think we may have beaten them now.
And that's been pretty devastating as far as the illness I've seen.
That's so scary. So we've closed our recreation. I'm not going to have any organized recreation for the young people, which they're going to miss. The businesses, and you got the guy sitting right here, Donald Monette and myself, and Chief Winders and Chief Gonzalez. We went to about 32 businesses, I think.
Yep.
And it's an eye-opener how great our young people are. They've opened businesses, mostly barber and beauty salons. And we went to, different restaurants. And Donald put together a list of things that we expected them to accomplish. They filled them out. They sent them back to us. We took those with us when we went to the business. And believe me, 100% of the businesses were ready for masks, social distancing, and hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them. And that's why I'm so upset. And social media, I'm not as bad as the president, but
Yeah.
I'll be up in the morning at 2 o'clock in the morning writing something because it just makes me so mad that they can open Costco and Walmart and dentists and gun shops and golf courses. Now, nothing against them, but why can't they open Elephant Butte, and why can't they open beauty salons, and why can't they open, a liquor store like Cooney's?
Yep.
All these are one-on-one type of people. And like I said, if the science allows us to open these other ones up, science, because every one of the beauticians and the barbershops said, we're going to make appointments, we're going to separate them by an hour, we're going to all have masks on,
Yep.
we're not going to allow friends or family. What's that? How is that different from a gun shop or a dentist? So I just don't I was just very upset with that.
And I absolutely agree with you. In smaller cities, and it's been proven that it's easier to organize the plan. And we should have been given the ability to start those.
They should have had,
those
Val,
plans
you're
implemented.
exactly right. They should have had people doing subsets of the state.
Mhm,
And a
mhm.
subset, okay, the Northwest is a big problem right now. Well, go to Catron County and go to Sierra County and go to Lincoln County that hardly have any. They should have had a subset of directives as to how to open them up.
How to open up, how to test, who to test. We haven't seen that in a transparent way.
No, and she's my governor. I'm a Democrat. I voted for her. But I was very upset with the way, and I've been communicating actually with Brian Moore, who is the chairman of the Task Force for Businesses.
Mm-hmm.
He owns a couple of grocery stores or so, I think, in Clayton, New Mexico. He was a representative, Republican, great, good guy. But I bombarded him with a bunch of texts saying, you know what? Break this state down. It's not one thing for everybody. It is not. It
So-
never has been.
So is there a city plan that's been conveyed to the businesses through your office?
Well, there's a city plan, and every business we went to, I told them, and I'm on public record, that as far as I was concerned, they could open with the specific things that they wrote down on paper, and we would enforce it. That's why I brought the police chief and the fire chief with me,
Mhm.
that we would enforce it. But the big but was, they all have state licensing boards.
Yeah.
And we told them up front, the city does not control them, and you could be sanctioned by those boards if you open against the governor's orders. Liquor board, beautician cosmetology board, those kinds of things, because if they opened and they did it against their orders, then that would have been a problem. And I think that was the biggest holdup. The same thing with the restaurants, with the liquor board, that if they did open, that would be a problem.
And we see that statewide right now, that there's a lot of protests against that effort. And I think it's valid, and I'm hoping that in the near future, we could at least I think Socorro could be a model for a lot of the other small communities.
They've got the mayor of Ruidoso making masks and putting them on TV. They got the mayor of Clovis putting masks on. He's on Facebook. Well, and these protests, and mostly, if you see the letter from the mayors, they're mostly small cities.
Mhm.
And the protests from the senator from Berlin, and Republicans. And my opinion is their protests are not based in science. Their protests are based, I'm a businessman too. We're losing about $300,000 a month here at the motels. But the protests have to be based in science. My protest is based in science because we say we've got plateaued on our cases. We have talked to all the business people.
Yep.
We're doing the three, make it simple. 3 things, that's all we need. Hygiene, spatial distancing, masks.
Absolutely.
Keep it simple. Get these businesses open. Like I said, if you can open this handful of businesses that to me don't even make any sense, golf courses, fine if you want to buy a gun. I'm not going to buy a gun, but, you have to make an appointment. Well, you make an appointment with a barber.
Sure.
So that's not scientific. My whole complaint was, it's not science when you prohibit Elephant Butte from opening, and I see people on the golf course giving them each other high fives with no mask because they hit the pin, because the pin can't be pulled out. They didn't get a hole in one. I know Donald's going to go golfing here this afternoon. Don't you dare pull that pin and because people, and then people, you got 4 people on the green giving each other high fives with no masks, and yet you can't take your boat out on Elephant Butte? I mean, come on.
And
That's not science, Val.
Absolutely. Well, I agree. But another thing I see in Socorro is we're kind of unique in that we have other collaborations, like we mentioned, being in the proximity of Alamo Reservation. And I think that's kind of, it happened late, but at least I think everybody's got the plan together there. But we also have New Mexico Tech. And that is huge because, like you said, the business at your motel often involves what's happening at Tech.
Big time.
So and my wife is the scheduler for all the first responders training and stuff like that, and that's been booked. That's been kind of canceled till November or maybe further.
God, if
So
it's November or December, it's going to be difficult because that's one of our mainstays. But the thing is, we have to assure the first responders who come all the way across from different parts of the country that Socorro is safe, that Socorro stays safe. And the next thing that's going to come up is you're going to have 1,800 students coming in to go to Tech, and Tech needs students on campus. They cannot do distance learning.
No.
They have labs, they have all kinds of things, and we want to make sure those students that come, and we've been talking to Dr. Wells about it, is to see, in the good old days, I used to do university physicals, and they make sure they had their vaccinations, especially the meningococcal vaccination, because that used to get rampant on the campuses. Well, they should come, before they come, get a physical and get a COVID test maybe a week before they come, and have that in hand when they get to Tech. If they don't have it in hand, we can text them right there and we'll have the report the next day, and they should self-quarantine for a day. So at least, and then people are going to say, well, they can still catch it. Well, sure. But at least we'll try to start with a fresh slate.
Exactly.
And not have 1,800 people who come from all over the world to this great campus.
Yep.
And we have some security that this is going to be, that we're going to be safe with them coming on board. Because we need them, just like we need Alamo. We need them to come to our shops and stores and doctors and stuff. And so we want them to come here. And Tara Jaramillo and myself and a few others helped with the water MRO truck, the water truck. Emertech helped us get that. Mike Stanley was terrific. Demesio drove it up there. National Guard picked up about 10 of these 500-gallon containers that we bought from the Williams Windmill. They got them up there, and I'm hoping that thing settles down.
And that has always been an issue, though, at Alamo, is the water issue.
Always.
I spoke to some representatives yesterday. The governor put me on the reentry task force for public ed. So
Oh, yeah.
we've been meeting met this week. We got 4 more meetings scheduled within the next 4 weeks. And I reached out to Alamo, to Magdalena, just to start getting some input on what the schools are going to do. So again, collaboration between the city and the school districts and the college is going to be so important. So we're all doing the same thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're following the same rules.
Did you see the little Twitter thing from JC, and I put it on Facebook, about these Chinese kids that go to school? If you get a chance, look at it. They come in, they spray the bottom of their feet, and then the child goes and washes his hands. He's still got his mask on, and then he moves over and gets his temperature in a little toy thing, and then he goes over, and there's a little fogging that they fog the kid.
Oh, yeah.
And then the kid goes in and takes his mask off. He goes in and takes his mask off. So there's got to be some sort of control, just like TSA, when you get on the plane.
Yep.
You just change it from guns and knives and stuff like that to COVID.
Exactly.
We already have the process. They put millions of people on planes. They just need to start thinking in that way. And then the next thing is, we're going to run out of PPEs. And that's where the federal and the state government, because businesses in 2 to 3 weeks, even though they said the contact is not as much on surfaces, they're going to run out of cleaning. They're out of cleaning supplies now. You can't find wipes unless you show up at 6:30 at
Yep.
Walmart or Sam. Even then, they're gone. But cleaning supplies are going to be very difficult in the next month.
And
They're
I
going to
think
run out.
learned anything from the reactions of the federal government in March and April is that they have to respond sooner. They got to stay on top of this and not wait for something to happen before they make plans, especially with equipment and supplies.
They're late.
That's going to be huge.
They're late.
Um,
And the city is continuing on with their, I have people out here that are itinerant vendors. Guy selling coffee, he's got people there with no masks, and they should be grab and go, and they're not. So I'm whining at him, and he gets upset at me. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do that.
yeah, well,
I even went to the homeless shelter with Donald a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you know what, you're going to have to do grab and go. Well, we're essential. I said, I know you're essential. You're serving 65 to 70 people for lunch, but they can't just be sitting there at the picnic tables like an outdoor restaurant. It's going to have to be grab and go, because if you get and a lot of them are from town, but if you get 6 or 7 people that are itinerants, and I don't know if they got COVID or anything, and they don't have masks, and they're in a group of 8 or 10 eating their lunch, it's going to be a nightmare.
and if they're essential, then they have to make the plans and follow the rules
Yeah.
as well. Be creative, find out what they do with the people that don't have a place to go to.
And they do.
Where do we put them?
And they responded. Shay responded. Now I just got to get to your TV and radio station about the senior graduation. It's just,
You know,
fist pumps and hand slapping don't go.
You-
You can't do that.
you mentioned and you mentioned the homeless shelter. The other thing is that I sit on Mary Ann Chavez's housing board, and we have about 100 apartments that house seniors and people with Social Security. And I know one thing is that by now they're getting very anxious. They're getting very restless. Depression starts to set in.
Yeah.
So I want to work with maybe some of the musicians in town. How do we go sing a song to them where they can come to their windows, come to their door.
Great idea.
So I'm working with Mary, and
Great
we're
idea.
meeting Monday about stuff like that.
Well, Mary Ann, Good Sam Nursing Home ought to be congratulated, because the housing authority and the board, I hopefully had some influence on her, is that it's rampant. COVID-19 is rampant in nursing home. As you know, in Washington State, that was the first place that it happened.
Yep.
And they lost at 10s and 20s and 30.
Yep.
And so we have not had that happen here, and you guys should be congratulated for not having that happen here.
Yeah, we've met almost immediately to get information to them, talk about getting them the equipment. The city, the county, helped us get the mask in their hands, but more importantly, the information. So we want to keep an eye on them going forward to make sure that they're happy, they know that they're being thought of, they haven't been forgotten. So I want to thank Mary Ann, the city, and the county for all those efforts.
Well, and Good Sam, I think.
And Good
you know,
Sam,
yeah,
absolutely.
Good Sam has done, like I said, those are hot spots in every city,
Yeah.
the nursing homes. And
Yeah.
we're so grateful that things are quiet out there.
And all the doctors in Socorro have been really good about reaching out to their patients, keeping appointments. My uncle, I help him out a lot, and he's had questions. We call the doctor, they resolve it online. So I really appreciate that.
Well, and
that
in
effort
Bernie
from-
Pound over at the hospital,
Absolutely.
their facility has 3 ventilators. I think they may have 3 or 4 COVID patients right now, and they may have already been discharged. So the capacity, the governor always talks about these 4 things, the 4 gates to open, the decrease in transmission, the number of testing, and then also she has the thing about the capacity of hospitals. This hospital is set. It's in good shape. There's not a problem.
Talked to her early on too, so absolutely. She's an auntie to my sisters, so we all call her Auntie Vern.
Are you related to everybody, Val?
Well,
come on.
yeah.
All right.
I think me and Donald are half brothers.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've also gotten involved in the community, and I think I'm related to Donald too. So, and maybe Donald, if you want to add something, I mean, it's something we're missing on.
I think you did it all, Mr. Chairman.
And leaving the COVID stuff aside, we still have a lot of issues that we were talking about. I know the state legislature is going to be meeting in the next month or so. Budget's going to be huge, but I know you have a lot of issues concerning like prescription drugs. I'm a victim. We have insurance, and I still was charged up to $400 a month.
Don't tell me about insulin.
to take insulin.
Don't tell me about
You
that.
know,
That's
so-
a criminal. That's just criminal. The guy
So-
who invented insulin gave it to the drug people.
Exactly.
Free. And now, whether you fall into the donut or you want to get Lantus, because what they've done in the good old days, we had NPH and regular, and it was $20 copay. Now they upscaled everybody to Lantus and Traceba and all that, and they're $400 a month.
And I take Lanson, something interesting is we went to their website, we found a coupon, and now we pay $5 a month for a year. And to me, it's shocking how you can go from $298 to $5. How big is the markup if the company's able to do that? So,
But you know what, Val? Isn't that like a drug dealer?
well, yeah.
Isn't that like somebody who says, hey, I can hook you now, it's cheap,
Yeah,
because I know you're going to have to use this for the rest of your life.
Yep.
Just come over to my side.
One of the things that our legislature did is they had that cap. So starting in January, I believe, there's a cap of $25. So that's one good
And
thing.
Canadian drugs.
Yeah.
And she got that passed, the
Yeah.
Canadian drugs. I think that's going to be great. But, going back to the cities, they gave out PPP for the businesses, and they gave out some loans. But the federal government and the state has done nothing for us as far as our gross receipts is going to be, what's going to happen in a month or two. We haven't even heard a peep out of our elected officials, senators, representatives, anybody. I haven't heard a peep. Albuquerque, the only town over 500,000 in this state, got $150 million from the CARES program out of the feds. The rest of there's 101, 102 municipalities in the state, got nothing. And what's going to happen then in June and July when things are like crashing?
So maybe as we move this show forward and then bring more of those representatives on.
Ask them that specific questions. What are you guys doing for the city? What are you guys doing for PPEs? What are you guys doing for, the people that are homeless and, feeding? Because everybody likes to say this stuff on the stuff I'm getting in the mail now, how great everything is. Well, what is the actual thing that you're doing?
Exactly. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about is election laws changed a couple of years ago, and the municipal election has kind of been thrown into a little bit of a blender, and maybe with Donald's help, we can kind of make light of what's coming up with city
Well,
elections
come on
next
over,
year.
Donald's real good at this, because I'm an elected official, and they just extended me another year to the chagrin of a lot of people. But so this new way where we get voted in November instead of March changed all the terms.
Yep.
But I'll let Donald explain it. He really is very good at doing that.
So the last time, and this is Donald Monette, everybody knows him, I think. I went to school with your brother. We played Little League football together, so there's another long-time relationship. I think I bought my first 3 cars from you guys, and I beat the heck out of them, so they were very good cars. The last election in the city was in March of 2016. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so what's the schedule coming forward? Do you have that available?
We are now on the county cycle because we opted into the state law. So where the county will now run our elections, and it saves the city about $13,000 to $15,000 each election. And it also gets rid of the disruption of City Hall, because that's where one of the voting places was. So the next election, let's see if I can recall this, will be in November of 2021, along with the counties, with any new councilors elected, and I believe the municipal judge is up then, because her term was also extended by that law. They will take office on January 1st of the following year, so it'd be 2022.
Okay, so for instance, we'll use Mayor Basker's position. The last time he ran was in 2014, correct?
2014, yes.
So wouldn't he be up next?
Wait, 2014,
No, 2018.
No.
We had the mayor for
I'll take
him.
it back in. Sorry, you're right.
We had the mayor for him in 2018.
so 2018.
That wasn't, that data wasn't available. Okay,
So
so you are right, the municipal judge and 4 council positions
So-
would be up next year.
So typically, if he's reelected in 2018, his term would go to 2022.
Yeah,
In February, he would be up, in 2022, he would have been up for reelection in March of 2022. But now that we're on the county cycle, that goes to November of 2024. So it's
2023. is
2023,
election.
that's right, yeah.
Okay,
So instead of 22.
Yes.
It's about an 18-month, actually a 20-month extension of their terms.
so then, in 2018, the mayor ran, Councilman Fleming, Councilman Salome, Hicks, and Dean. So they'll run again in 2023. And next year, Councilman Jaramillo, Marianne Chavez, Michael Olguin Jr., and Peter Romero, along with the municipal judge, will run.
Correct.
Very good. Now, as far as mail-in voting, that seems to be the norm going around. How do we as City Hall feel about endorsing and picking up the mail-in voting efforts?
Again, because we've opted in, it's now run by the county, so that onus is moved to the county clerk instead of City Hall. So it'll be up to them to control the ballots and to collect them according to the law.
And how do you feel about that, Mr. Matt?
There's always a risk when you change things like that. And, there's a push out there for voter ID, but why would you need a voter ID if you're doing mail-in ballots now? So kind of contradictory. But so again, the onus is moved to the county, and you just pray for the best and expect the worst and take what the good Lord gives you.
Well put. So then, let me go back to my little agenda and see if we covered everything. Another thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is we're in the middle of a census year, and the census affects us for federal funding, like housing, infrastructure. I know the Head Start program is relied 100% on federal funding. So every time I've done this program, I've really encouraged people to turn in those census applications. If you know anybody that's homeless, try to track them down, help them fill out that census, because that affects housing in many of our efforts. So the county had gift certificates they were giving out. What's the city's efforts as far as helping with the census going forward?
Myself and Chelsea Lyons from our library sit on that board with the county, and we were meeting about every month. They've extended the deadline for the census to October of this year, because right now we would have been right in the middle of it, because it was supposed to be done by June. So, as you said, the county's come up, they've got some funding from the state, and they're offering $30 gift cards to various businesses in town that have signed up for that program, so that's been a great incentive. County Manager Michael Hawks and Gail Rogers, Trip Rogers are really coordinating it for the county. And so far, we've seen our responses increasing, and it's a little confusing from the government, because they want everybody to register, but they want everybody to wait till they get the card in the mail. And I don't understand that, because you can go straight to the
Yes.
website and do it without a number.
Yeah.
So there's some conflicting information out there about that as well, but I agree with you. A lot of grants schools rely on the return of the census.
So, well, I think that's about it for time. I want to turn it over to Reese. I want to thank our guests and our hosts today. I think it was pretty lively. I hope everybody out there enjoyed the conversation. A lot of information. I would encourage everybody to support the mayor's efforts in opening up Socorro with this COVID pandemic. I think he's on top of what's happening. The plan seems to be good for Socorro. We need to get New Mexico Tech open, so all that business that comes through first responders and all the student continues to flow through our economy. It's essential. It's a big juggling act. I commend both of you for getting your hands on those balls flying in the air. And Reese, do you have anything to add?
No, Val, thank you very much. You've been listening to Vocal with Val on Rio Grande Valley Radio, and really want to thank you. And one thing I wanted to say on the census there, when we had Gail Armstrong in last week, she mentioned that there's a number that they have to fill out on their report. And if they don't put that number in, which comes in the mail, then they will send someone out to see you. So maybe the only advantage is getting that number in the mail.
I hadn't heard that. But
Yeah.
And
good
again,
information.
if you go on, I've done it both ways. If you go online, it's just like one extra step to add your address. If you put in that code, the address comes up with the code. That's the only thing different that I've seen with that. So,
Okay.
I want Reese to talk just a second about
Val, can I say something about something that I proposed from my medical point of view? It was very controversial. People did not like it.
Sure.
On the census, I said, how about and it's already, there's a lot of people already filled it out, but how about putting a question on there if you've been tested for COVID-19? It didn't go over very well.
Yeah, I saw the battle back and forth about that. So
Anyway, that's
again,
what I just wanted.
as the waters calms, the mayor throws a rock in the
I
middle
know,
of the pond.
I just wanted to shake it up a little, but if we're gonna have any kind of a number that how many people have been tested, you got these people going out anyway,
Yep.
canvassing. But anyway, that was my little,
And it is such an important piece of data to collect. I think it's important and essential.
Yeah, anyway,
so
sorry.
If Reese would talk a little bit about we didn't get a chance to talk about that, Mayor, the broadband issue with
boy.
online schooling going on. And we know that there's over 100 students in Socorro that didn't get to go online to do their schooling. They had to be arranged to get packets sent to them. And I know the city has issues, New Mexico Tech has issues, so broadband continues
well,
to be a
I
big
hear
big-
Reese is looking into that, and you know, they set up hotspots, some people did. They CenturyLink put a feather in their cap, they set up hotspots. Well, they didn't do it here. You know, and don't get me started on broadband electrical. That's another vocal with Val, but because two of them maybe, because we've done a survey. We're looking at the data right now, and CenturyLink doesn't. You know, they use maps at United States Department of Agriculture to do this Reconnect America grants, And CenturyLink, and I'll tell you right now, they lie. They say we have connectivity in this town to 25 megs up and down, no problem. The whole city does. Well, we know that's not right. But the federal government uses this map.
Well, and the issue with that, Mayor, is the fact that a lot of times the fiber is there. Like I was just at the USDA broadband meeting in Truth or Consequences, and they showed no broadband in Catron County. However, there is broadband in Catron County. There's a 1 gigabit link serving the NRAO.
Yeah.
But to get access to this, broadband, you need to have an army of lawyers to get the incumbents who own the lines to open them up. The problem is that there is broadband in places, and there could be a lot more, but again, it's like working with Socorro Electric Cooperative. There has to be a lot more cooperation between people and groups to make this happen. The broadband is here, the fiber is here. The merger between CenturyLink and L3 Communications just brought a lot of that here. But again, when you're talking Socorro, you're talking, at my residence in particular, they can't put a phone line in because the copper's bad. And so much of the copper plant is bad inside Socorro, which is where the DSL fails. And so Rio Grande Valley Radio, I'm also starting a business with my friend Kenny. We're doing Free Space Ranch, and we're bringing broadband here to Socorro and wireless to solve the problem of broadband for those people that are outside the DSL range. Like as Val said, there's over 100 students here that don't have broadband. New Mexico's, I think, 48 or 49th in broadband penetration. And the interesting thing is when you go across the river and you look at Plateau Telecommunications and how they do it compared to how Western New Mexico does it and how CenturyLink does it, it's all a matter in how you run your business. And that's the issue, because when we were in Catron County, we had the opportunity. There is a SkyPi observatory. It's an online observatory. We had the ability to bring a Canadian university into Pie Town who wanted to run 3 observatories there remotely. We paid Western New Mexico $1,000 for access. They had access. All we needed was permission was to hang 1 antenna on a tower. There's plenty of room. Took over 6 months. The Canadian university walked away, said goodbye.
Reese, let me tell you, we initially, 15 years ago, before Mr. Herrera came on board at Co-op, we strung fiber on these poles for the city, the county, and then we put some in Bullock Street for tech. And that came out of that Lambda Rail that Level 3 and Plateau used to own, and then CenturyLink bought Level 3. And I have been trying for the last 30 years for economic development to get access to that Lambda Rail, because that is a perfect conduit out of town to get this thing done. We strung fiber. We didn't have to pay $1.6 million that they were trying to get out of TDS to put it on their poles, and a pole charge. And we can't get anywhere with the co-op. And so if we had their poles, and like I said, we've strung fiber when Polo Pineda was a manager, when Lupe Vega was a manager. We ran up against a brick wall with Mr. Herrera and the board, and all it did was help the city, help the county, help the tech to get this fiber over there. County, you know, we actually, the city dug the trench from the annex, and so we had all this. There's fiber right there at the pool where the pole is. We're ready to go. TDS are going to spend their own money, $4 to $5 million, and CenturyLink told us that they could put fiber on the copper. Well, you can't do that, you know. And they wanted us to pay $1 million for it, and they were on these tranches. Evidently, they've got them in different places that they were going to, you know. It's just we have an unbelievable university, and you can't in this town. People in reserve are better off than we are, because Western gives them access over there too. I mean, it's just a nightmare. And we've got fiber going through this town all over the place.
Yeah,
but it's going out of town. Nobody can attach to it.
That's the issue. Is
and I'm proud that you're getting involved with that, and we need to do that.
And I think you see the passion for the mayor. I know Reese is passionate about this. I got 2 kids at home that do online schooling, so I need that connectivity. And half the time I don't get on.
Well,
half the time when I do get on, the voice is trailing the video, and my son
is that
can't
what's
keep
happening?
up with
I
it.
couldn't figure that.
Well,
So
and
it is a mess, and I think we got the right players at the table that's just about
Well, the
getting
big-
on the same sheet of music.
The big thing, like I says, the good thing about COVID-19 and what COVID-19 is bringing out is the fact that we need the broadband access, not just for entertainment, but we need it for telemedicine. There's a real opportunity here for telemedicine. There's a real opportunity for services here in Socorro. But as the mayor said with the right-of-ways are a big issue. But right now you've got a trail system going in from the top of New Mexico down, the Rio Grande Master Trail System. You could bury conduit and fiber under that. You've got city
You got
county.
the interstate right here with a right of way. Just I hate to cut you off, like I said, I keep saying to people I'm a Democrat, and I got awfully upset with the Representative Torres. There's a big article in the paper, $23 million that she got for broadband and this and that. Well, it didn't say anything about her place. It talked about Mora and it talked about northern New Mexico. It didn't even say anything about $23 million for broadband in rural areas in this district.
Well,
I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like,
Yeah, I've seen it go elsewhere. The big thing that this district is going to miss in the next 15 years is that with the next generation VLA coming on board, each of those antenna sites is going to require about 200 gigabits per second per antenna site. There's 27 of them right now at the VLA. So when you look at what's going to happen in 15 to 20 years, we need to have the fiber optics in the ground now to get ready for what's going to happen. And with what they can do with dense wave division multiplexing, the capacity is there. But you have to have the right of ways and you have to have more people cooperating and collaborating. Because again, the capacity of fiber optics exceeds any one user. And if a cooperation can get together and a collaborative can get together, you can defray or spread that cost out, as Don will probably say, amongst more than one player, and it becomes affordable.
Brian Smith from USDA,
Yeah.
he's out of Arizona, very sympathetic to us. But the maps that are set up, just like FEMA sets up flood maps, the maps that USDA has set up for broadband has got us behind the 8 ball because they're depending on CenturyLink to give them the information. And so we've been trying to fight that information.
Well, in CenturyLink and the maps that are there, they're accurate. The fiber's here. What's not here is the access and the ability for small businesses necessarily to get that access.
Well, we almost lost our brand at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Because the threshold for that is 32 up and down. So we had to buy fiber. We couldn't do it on a DSL. And
Right.
that's $1,200 a month.
Right,
But what private resident's going to afford that?
No.
right,
So-
exactly.
Well,
That's
okay.
another, that's
I
another
think
topic.
that's a whole other show. We've gone way beyond our time. So, again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to Vocal with Val. Thank the mayor, city administrator, Mr. Monette, and especially our host, Jackson Ranch Steakhouse. I could still smell it, so I might grab something on the way out.
Yeah,
And
Val and Reese,
back
you
to
guys are doing a great job. Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for joining us today for Vocal with Val. We really appreciate you joining us. Again, this is brought to you in part by Free Space Ranch, all things wireless, a Socorro local broadband provider right here in the free state of Socorro. And then we have one other sponsor we want to do, Saya. She is also sponsoring this program and helping us bring this to you. And so here's a little message from Saya.
The coronavirus.
All right, looks like we're going to have a little bit of an issue with that. We will try that again. Remember, you can join us tomorrow for Western Country Saturday mornings right there on Rio Grande Valley Radio for the best in Western country music. Go to our music player Saturday morning at 7 a.m. and you can join in and listen to all your Western country stars, including our own local Doug Figgs, Kyle Martin, Jim Jones, and the Cowboy Way Trio right here on Rio Grande Valley Radio. Thank you for listening.